All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving headfirst into the brilliant sci-fi epic that is Project Hail Mary. We're going to track the absolute roller coaster of a story plot about a lone astronaut who's trying to piece together a massive puzzle. And honestly, it's a puzzle that holds the fate of not just one, but two entire species in the balance. Let's get right into it. So, picture this for a second. The survival of everyone on Earth depends entirely on you. Literally everyone. But there's a massive catch here. As you open your eyes, you realize you have absolutely no idea who you are, where you are, or what you're even supposed to be doing. It's wild, right? And the cool thing is, we, as the audience, learn the terrifying stakes at the exact same time our protagonist does. Section 1. Waking up in space, amnesia at the edge of the unknown. Okay, the year is 2032. Our guy awakens from an induced coma on a spacecraft called the Hail Mary. And slowly, kind of piece by piece, his memories start trickling back. He figures out he's Dr. Ryland Grace, a middle school science teacher and, interestingly, a former molecular biologist. But looking around the ship, this incredibly grim reality sets in. He's the sole survivor of a 3-person crew. He is completely alone, floating in space, with zero memory of what his mission actually is. And to make matters even more terrifying, Grace manages to run the math and calculate his location. Now, he isn't just in orbit around Earth. No, he is a staggering 11.9 light-years away from home, out in the Tau Ceti star system. To put that into perspective, that is a mind-boggling distance. It emphasizes this profound, crushing isolation. I mean, there is no calling for backup, and there is for sure no turning back. Section 2. The Astrophage threat. The Petrova line. So, through a series of returning flashbacks, Grace finally remembers why he's out there. Scientists back home had discovered something truly terrifying, this thing called a Petrova line, stretching from the sun all the way to Venus. Grace was actually the one who discovered this line was made of something he called astrophage. Basically, these are unicellular organisms that are literally eating our sun. They absorb electromagnetic radiation to propel themselves through space, multiplying like crazy and actively dimming our star. And this isn't some abstract problem for our great-grandkids to solve. Because the astrophage is dimming the sun so fast, catastrophic global cooling is going to completely wipe out humanity in exactly 30 years. 30 years! This incredibly strict ticking clock is what forces the head of the Petrova task force, a woman named Eva Strott, to recruit Grace to find a solution. So what's Earth's desperate play? Project Hail Mary. Scientists notice that Tau Ceti is the only star in our solar neighborhood that is somehow, miraculously, resisting the astrophage infection. So they build a ship fueled by the very astrophage that's threatening them. But here's the really dark reality of the mission. It's a one-way, international suicide mission. They only had enough fuel for the trip there. The crew's one and only job is to find the answer at Tau Ceti and send any life-saving findings back to Earth in these smaller, unmanned space probes. Section 3. Meeting Rocky the Alien, First Contact. Now, just as Grace is really absorbing the reality of his impending death, the biggest twist of the story happens. An alien vessel arrives. Inside is an alien that Grace ends up naming Rocky. Now, the physical differences between them are extreme. Grace is, an oxygen-breathing human. Rocky is this 5-legged, rock-like iridian who breathes superheated ammonia and actually sees using echolocation. But despite all that, their circumstances are tragically identical. Rocky is the sole surviving engineer of a mission to save his own star, and he's been stranded out there alone for 40 years. Because they would literally breathe toxic gas to one another, they have to interact through a pressurized, transparent barrier made of this alien material called xenonite. But they manage to bridge the gap. Grace acts like a total genius and sets up a machine translation system to interpret Rocky's language, which is entirely musical, chord-based communication. It's like a giant intergalactic puzzle. But through the universal languages of math and science, these two isolated beings quickly form a really fast, deep friendship. They aren't enemies at all. They're colleagues trying to save their worlds. Section 4. The Tamu-Iba Solution. Planet Adrian. Together, Grace and Rocky turn their attention to a local planet, Tau Ceti E, which Grace nicknames Adrian. And here's where the scientific method literally saves the day. They follow a highly rigorous step-by-step process. First, they scan the planet and discover a microbial biosphere living high in the atmosphere. They realize that something down there is eating the astrophage, keeping it perfectly in check.
They actually managed to pull off this crazy maneuver to capture this natural predator, which they dub Telmuiba. Then, they carefully and selectively breed it so it can survive the specific nitrogen conditions in Venus's atmosphere back in our solar system.
So they have the cure in hand, but we reach a major crisis point. Grace still has absolutely no fuel to get home. Seeing his new friend facing certain starvation in deep space, Rocky makes a profound choice. He selflessly agrees to share his own ship's astrophage fuel with Grace. This act of pure friendship means Rocky's journey back to his home planet is going to take 6 extra years, but it literally gives Grace his life back.
Section 5. A desperate sacrifice. Cascading failures.
Of course, victory in space is never quite that simple, right? During the incredibly risky maneuver to actually dip into the atmosphere and gather the Tulmuiba, everything goes wrong. A fuel leak triggers the Hail Mary to spin completely out of control. The intense centrifugal force kicks in and knocks Grace completely unconscious. Seeing his friend dying, Rocky does the unthinkable. He breaks right out of his protective xenonite sphere into Earth's atmosphere to manually save Grace, sustaining horrific, life-threatening injuries in the process. Now, while Rocky is healing up, a shocking final flashback hits Grace. And this is where the story throws a massive curveball. He suddenly remembers the whole truth of his departure from Earth. He wasn't some willing, noble hero who volunteered. When an explosion tragically killed the original science crew right before launch, Grace was terrified. He flat-out refused to go, so Eva Strat had him heavily drugged and literally shanghaied onto the ship against his will. He was forced into heroism. But, there is absolutely no time to dwell on the past because a brand new immediate crisis pops up. Grace discovers that during their selective breeding process, the Tamuba evolved. It developed the ability to pass straight through xenonite. Now, for Grace, it's an easy fix. He just transfers his samples to plastic containers. But Rocky's entire ship is made completely of xenonite. That means the Tamuba will inevitably escape, consume all of Rocky's astrophage fuel mid-journey, strand him in deep space, and completely doom the entire Iridian species. Section 6. A New Home, Redemption. The crazy part is, the two friends have already parted ways and are heading to their respective homes when Grace realizes this fatal flaw. This presents him with an agonizing choice. He can keep going, return to Earth with the cure, and literally be welcomed as the greatest savior in human history, or he can go back and save his friend. And Grace chooses redemption. He loads the cure into his unmanned probes and fires them back to Earth to save humanity. Then he performs the ultimate selfless act. He turns his ship around to rescue Rocky, permanently throwing away his return ticket home. The story concludes with honestly such a heartwarming and beautiful resolution. Grace successfully tracks down and rescues Rocky, but because he used his fuel, he can never return to Earth. So Grace travels with Rocky to his home planet, Irid. The Iridians are incredibly grateful, and they construct this specialized Earth-like biodome just for him. He gets to live out his days in this alien world, doing what he always loved most anyway, teaching children, in this case Iridian children, all about the wonders of science. It's a really powerful demonstration that the bond of friendship and the pursuit of knowledge completely transcend species. Which leaves us to ponder the really deep themes of heroism from this incredible plot. Think about it, Ryland Grace started out as this terrified guy forced onto a ship against his will, but he ended up making the most heroic, completely voluntary sacrifice possible. So I'll leave you with this. Would you give up a return ticket to your home planet, to literally everything you've ever known, just to save a friend from another star? It's a question that makes Project Hail Mary's story truly unforgettable. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.